these we may join Caius Curo, Marcus Scurrius, Publius Rutilius, and Caius Gracchus. It will not be amiss to give a short account of Scaurus and Rutilius, neither of whom indeed had the reputation of being a first-rate orator, though each of them pleaded a number of causes. But some deserving men who were not remarkable for their genius may be justly commended for their industry, not that the persons I am speaking of were really destitute of genius, but only of that particular kind of it which distinguishes the orator. For it is of little consequence to discover what is proper to be said unless you are able to express it in a free and agreeable manner, and even that will be insufficient if not recommended by the voice, the look, and the gesture. It is needless to add that much depends upon art, for though, even without this, it is possible by the mere force of nature to say many striking things, yet as they will after all be nothing more than so many lucky hits, we shall not be able to repeat them at our pleasure. The style of Scaurus, who was a very sensible and honest man, was remarkably grave and commanded the respect of the hearer, so that when he was speaking for his client, you would rather have thought he was giving evidence in his favor than pleading his cause. This manner of speaking, however, though but indifferently adapted to the bar, was very much so to a calm debate in the Senate, of which Scaurus was then esteemed the father, for it not only bespoke his prudence, but, what was still a more important recommendation, his credibility. This advantage, which it is not easy to acquire by art, he derived entirely from nature, though you know that even here we have some precepts to assist us. We have several of his orations still extant in 3 books inscribed by Lucius Fetitus, containing the history of his own life, which, though a very useful work, is scarcely read by anybody. But the Institution of Cyrus by Xenophon is read by everyone, which, though an excellent performance of the kind, is much less adapted to our manners and form of government, and not superior in merit to the honest simplicity of Scaurus. 30. Fuffidus himself was likewise a tolerable pleader, but Rutilius was distinguished by his solemn and austere way of speaking, and both of them were naturally warm and spirited. Accordingly, after they had rivaled each other for the consulship, he who had lost his election immediately sued his competitor for bribery, and Scaurus, the defendant, being honorably acquitted of the charge, returned the compliment to Rutilius by commencing a similar prosecution against him. Rutilius was a man of great industry and application, for which he was the more respected, because, besides his pleadings, he undertook the office, which was a very troublesome one, of giving advice to all who applied to him in matters of law. His orations are very dry, but his juridical remarks are excellent, for he was a learned man and well versed in the Greek literature, and was likewise an attentive and constant hearer of Panaetius, and a thorough proficient in the doctrine of the Stoics, whose method of discoursing, through very close and artful, is too precise and not at all adapted to engage the attention of common people. The self-confidence, therefore, which is so peculiar to the sect, was displayed by him with amazing firmness and resolution, for though he was perfectly innocent of the charge, a prosecution was commenced against him for bribery, a trial which raised a violent commotion in the city, and yet, though Lucius Crassus and Marcus Antonius, both a consular dignity, were at that time in very high repute for their eloquence, he refused the assistance of either, being determined to plead his cause himself, which he accordingly did. Caius Coda, indeed, who was his nephew, made a short speech in his vindication, which he spoke in the true style of an orator, though he was then but a youth. Quintus Mucius too said much in his defense, with his usual accuracy and elegance, but not with that force and extension which the mode of trial and the importance of the cause demanded. Rutilius, therefore, was an orator of the Stoical, and Scaurus of the antique cast, but they both entitled to our commendation, because in them even this formal and unpromising species of elocution has appeared among us with some degree of merit. For as in the theatre, so in the forum, I would not have our applause confined to those alone who act the busy and more important characters, but reserve a share of it for the quiet and unambitious performer, who is distinguished by a simple truth of gesture without any violence. All right.